Corporate Criminalities, the GMO and Monsanto controversy. Recently, the three-letter term GMO has been making headlines all around the United States. While many Americans have heard of it, not everyone actually knows what it refers to: genetically modified organisms. Biotechnology is not a new science, and in fact, it's at least several decades old. However, not until recently have people begun to question GMOs in the ways that they are used, how they affect people in their health, and what their impact on global societies and agricultural sustainability is, or what part it plays in our politics. To start off, what is a genetically modified organism? According to the International Journal of Biological Sciences, a genetically modified organism is one that has been genetically altered to do things the organism wouldn't normally do, like repel specific insects or withstand diseases they are normally susceptible to. They do this by being bred to produce certain toxins that kill these things, or being tolerant to weed killers the farmers may use to keep weeds at bay. When we eat foods containing GMOs, we are also consuming these toxins. So why is that a big deal? Apparently, when GMOs came into being and were allowed into circulation in the U.S. food supply, little if no tests were actually done on them prior to their release on the market, not even to determine their safety or long-term effects on the animals and humans who consume them on a regular basis. For these reasons, despite the fact that GM crops were praised to be the future of extensive food productivity and even one day the possible end to world hunger, critics of GMOs around the world began an outcry against them. Among the many arguments they had against GMOs, the three most common are as follows. The environmental impact. Many scientists begin to question the release of GMOs into the environment and how it would ultimately affect our world's ecosystem. They feared these genetically modified organisms would cause irreparable damage to nature and the delicate balance of living things. What could be the end result of genetically modified organisms being introduced into our environment on a large scale? The health risk impact. In the past several years, critics have increasingly pointed out the lack of long-term studies conducted on GMOs. Noting that what studies had taken place were concluded within 3 months, they clamored for more thorough testing to be done, and not in the hands of companies who had vested financial interests. A recently widely publicized study done with rats and GM corn by biologists at France's Caen University proved to have dismaying results. Not only did many of the rats die faster than their control groups, but they suffered from organ failure and tumor development. The societal impact. Biologist Franz Seifert states that agribiotechnology is the result of bioindustry's quest to tap new sources of profit. They often secured the rights to their product with patents, which in turn causes the farmers to become dependent on repurchasing their seeds and products each year. Often, this is not sustainable to the small independent farmer around the world. He goes on to state that while GM seeds are created to boost production of crops, they are not focused on the varied and different nutritional needs of small farmers who often have next to no resources other than the bare minimum. Because of these serious unanswered questions, many nations around the world have begun to ban GMOs. Most, if not all, the countries in the European Union have done so, and more recently the countries of India and Russia. However, the United States has not yet followed their lead. Despite a growing Say No to GMOs movement throughout our country, nothing yet has been done to stop them, at least until further and more long-term testing has been conducted. The closest we've gotten was in the state of California, where a grassroots movement called Proposition 37 called for labeling of food products being sold that contain GMOs. Unfortunately, it was recently defeated, to the dismay of many Americans who had hoped that it would set a precedent. So how was it defeated? The sad truth is that while the Yes on 37 proposition had many backers, it didn't have one thing: money. Which, of course, was something that the opponents of 37 did have. Opponents such as General Mills, Coca-Cola, and Monsanto. Major corporations whose interests lie not with the people of this country, but in the interests of their own corporation. Monsanto is the world's leading agribusiness giant and is also a great example of how corporations influence our society and its decisions, and even get involved in our government and politics. They do this by lobbying politicians in Washington, paying lawyers to find legal loopholes, and by spending money opposing to campaigns such as Prop 37, which go against their company's best interests. One of the things many people are protesting is the fact that high-up ex-employees of such companies have found even more high-up positions within the United States government after leaving a company like Monsanto. And who are we to say where these individuals' interests truly lie? So, we ask ourselves, at what point do we stop allowing such companies to blindfold the American public with their money? When do we start insisting that corporate greed and consumer capitalism is not what makes this country great, but in fact can be what will cripple us in the long run? When will we say we will no longer turn our heads the other way, to allow corporations to run our government, our politicians, our health, and even those of others around the world? It is time to make the world and the future a better place for all of us to live in, not just those who have money. It is in our hands today by speaking up. For more information on the Occupy Monsanto movement, please visit www.occupymonsanto.com. Thank you.